Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we're back here with another My Team Career Mode video on F1 2021, and we are here in Season 2 for what is supposed to be the Spanish GP qualifying. Now we'll get on to why I said supposed to be in a minute. Before that, of course, last video at Imola, a fantastic race. If you haven't already watched it, I'd click off the video now, because I'm sure that video will be a tad more dramatic and exciting than this one. Got about a couple of seconds, because we're going to head over to the standings now so we can have a look at that. It was another win for ourselves last time out. We took all 26 possible points, of course, taking the fastest lap. I think that's our first fastest lap since Austria last season, so really nice to get one of those. But yeah, P1 once again. It was an absolutely insane race, though. It just became absolute carnage. Of course, lap number 1, Hamilton spun after colliding with Bottas, and I think it was Raikkonen spun after colliding with Antonio Giovinazzi, and then of course, once that had happened, we also had, I think it was Esteban Ocon who went then into the back of Antonio Giovinazzi, because Antonio Giovinazzi was going very slow through Acque Minerali, had nowhere to go and broke his front wing. Then, of course, we had the massive massacre where Mr. Valtteri Bottas spun around and then ended up spinning after colliding with Checo Perez. Right in front of our eyes. We thankfully didn't get caught up in it. And then collected the McLarens, the Ferraris. We had the Williams, ended up getting in that incident a little bit. I think both of them had front wings. Of course, we had, I think, Fernando Alonso involved in that. Robert Schwartzman was involved in that. Half of the field was involved with that. In fact, 12 drivers had to get front wings in total by the end of the race. 10 of those were caused by this one incident. It really did mess some drivers up, I have to say. Bottas, despite that, finished P3 at the flag. He got a podium despite causing half of the grid to pile up. Somehow no one actually DNF'd due to that. We did have 3 DNFs, I do believe. One for Carlos Sainz and then Robert Schwartzman. Those two had a DNF. And Lando Norris. However, that's classed as P20 because he DNF'd in the last 3 laps or something. So yeah, it was an absolute carnage race. The Red Bull's still looking strong. Perez P2, Verstappen P3. Those two separated by 3 points. You can see that Checo Perez is still pretty close to us, and we've had 2 of our stronger tracks. Now we have quite a weak one for me at Spain, so it will be a difficult race weekend. The Mercedes 7 points behind Verstappen. They're struggling a little bit. Hamilton's been consistent so far, 2 P5s. He has 21 points like his teammate. Have to say, the rest of the order from there down is just jumbled up. I mean, Danny Rick, yeah, fair enough, up there. You wouldn't be surprised by a P6, looking decent so far this season. But then you've got the likes of Gasly, is pretty high up there. You'd expect him to be a little bit lower down. I mean, Lando Norris, of course, bit of a disappointing Bahrain, disaster at Imola. Carlos Sainz, a very disappointing Bahrain, disaster at Imola. And then Charles Leclerc, there he is, very disappointing Bahrain, okay-ish at Imola, and that means that those 3 drivers are quite far down compared to where they should be. My teammate Yuki Tsunoda is still in a very decent position after his 8 points from Bahrain didn't score last time out after getting caught heavily in that incident. Whole front wing snapped off. That was the same for Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso went into the back of him. My teammate got, I think, 15 seconds worth of time penalties for being hit in the back and then ricocheting into someone else. So really was really unlucky there for him last time out at Imola. Vettel looking pretty strong after Imola, 4 points for him. Alonso got some points on the board. Stroll got a couple of points on the board. It is looking pretty close at the moment in terms of the Drivers' Championship, but we are starting to gain a bit of a lead, which is important. I think we'll probably lose that massive lead we've got this weekend at Spain, so it's important that we've built that up if we want to be able to maybe battle with the Red Bulls this season. In terms of the constructors, only 3 teams yet to score. Very different from last season. Last season, of course, Alpine didn't score up until Kota. So 8 rounds in, after 8 rounds, we'd had just 7-point scoring teams. We've had 2, and now it's 8. So it's certainly looking very spicy in terms of that. Very nicely spread. Top 14 have points. So 14 out of the 22 drivers have points. It's pretty nicely spread at the moment, I would definitely say. But it is all to play for at the moment. I have to say that the Red Bulls, despite the R&D being very close, looking a lot stronger than the Mercedes. And I just expect the McLarens and the Ferraris to come a bit further up the order. Because of these 2 mad races we've had so far, it's quite likely that it will start to slowly filter back out into what we'd expect. And that sort of happened last season with the likes of Lando Norris struggling a bit at the start, started to come back to a bit of normality towards the end. The reason why we're not doing quali today is because I'm sure you can see we've got quite a worn CE at the moment. You can probably see that. 78% on it isn't exactly fantastic. We can't do a race weekend with 78% CE. So we have 2 choices. Do we take a totally fresh control electronics for this weekend, or do we take the grid penalty now? And we are going to be taking the grid penalty today. Because, let me show you here, that's not the driver market we want. As you can see, we've got Spain. From the way we're going with the CE at the moment, we're probably going to make, if we use a new CE for Spain, we'll be able to use that for France. We'll have to take a grid penalty in Austria. If we can really stretch it, we'll have to take a grid penalty in Great Britain. And to be honest with you, I would probably say out of those 4 tracks, Spain, France, Austria, Britain, Spain's my weakest by quite a bit. And I really do enjoy Great Britain. It's my home track. So even if that's possibly the weakest of the 3, for me, I don't want to be taking grid penalty there. So we're going to be taking a control electronics grid penalty this weekend. In terms of the rest of the parts, they're all right at the moment. Very low wear on those as it stands. Just the CE that has skyrocketed at 78% there. 44's it's under 50% at the moment. So all of those engine components can go another race. But what we are going to do is, because we're taking good penalties now, we might as well stack them. Because if the energy store's at 31%, we need to make it 5 races. It's going to be a bit touch and go, potentially, with that one. So what we're going to do today is we're going to stack good penalties. I think that's probably the best decision to do. If you look at, this is the only one of them, of course, the energy store that does have the only 2 allocated along with the CE. And if you take the energy store, as we're looking at 31%, divide that by 2, 15, times it by 5, it's going to be high. And you don't want to risk it. You really don't want to risk it. Plus, we could have a mechanical failure at some point with one of these parts. We haven't had one yet, but they are turned on, and we've got the worst durability out of all the cars. So we've got to be prepared to maybe have that. So, because of that, we're going to stack grid penalties. The way it's going to work, I am going to do FP1 on all of these components that we used last weekend. Then, at the end of FP1, I'm going to take grid penalties for everything. Then, in FP2, going to go out on track to register the grid penalties. Then, I'm going to swap back to these components that we have used at Imola and Bahrain, apart from the CE. I'm going to swap back to all of these, and we're going to use these for the race weekend. We're going to go out on track to register that. That's how it will work. So there's no quali today. You will, however, get to see the results of Q1. We can't show you the results of Q2 and 3 because, sadly, you have to actually be in them to see the results. So that is explaining it. Let's get on with the R&D because that's going to be the most exciting thing we've got to do in this video. A bit sad, I know. Sadly, this MG UK upgrade that we went for has failed, so we'll just do 167 to get that. Trying to just sort of stay with the bottom of the pack in the durability. You can tell we're not really pushing for that. We are getting that lightweight real rims update coming in pretty soon. Do want to get some engine ones, but one thing we do need is this upgrade, the front wing end plates. We can rush it, 64% failure chance though. It's quite a risk, but it is a good upgrade to get in. Do we try to get it in? To be honest with you, I don't think it's worth it. Because I don't need a massive push for this next one. We've already got these planned out here, just put them in. I don't need a massive push for this weekend. It's not my strongest of track, so it's not extremely pivotal that got a very, very good car this weekend. You can see here that we've got a couple more of these upgrades in. We're quite low on the durability. You guys will know that by now. Certainly not pushing on that one. Personnel department.
Sooner or later, you'll probably be asked by the media who you consider to be your rival. Think carefully.
Thanks, R&D guy at the bottom, for talking. Right, so Sonoda. Oh, we don't have the R&D points to get rid of, so we're going to have to lose focus. Don't have a choice. That is an annoying one.
The department appreciate it.
That's a really annoying one. We don't want to lower his focus, but that's 84 now. Let's have a look at everyone else's. Some of them are getting pretty low at the moment. They have dropped. A lot of them were in the 90s. Now they're dropping. Let's have some R&D, please, so we can get going on some of the upgrades. There we go. A little bit of R&D will certainly come nicely. We have got a high cash balance. I actually forgot about that for a second there. We do have a high cash balance. What do we got? We could upgrade activities or sponsor relations. Let's have a look in the chassis. How long until this one's done? 2 days. We'll have a look. We might need to go for an upgrade in the chassis department to be able to bring more upgrades in. In terms of the reshaped combustion engine, ERS, engine power. We'll go with the engine power pistons. There's a 55% failure chance if we go for that. We'll risk it. We shall risk it with the pistons. Try and get them in.
Hate to drop this on you, but we could
on this one. Lose money or resource point because we've got overworked staff. How do we reduce the workload, or do we invest more in departments to help us hit those headlines? We're going to have to invest more. We are not having some helpful department events here. It can go both ways, and it certainly isn't going the way that we want it to go. Right, let's continue along. We've got this coming in. Yes, there we go. Our chassis upgrade is in, and you can see we've gone ahead of Alpha Tauri here. Interestingly, Mercedes now ahead of Red Bull, Alpine now ahead of Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin dropping away from ourselves and Alpha Tauri. Let's have a look. What else is available? Here we do have some stuff that will be available soon if we get this upgrade. Yes, there is another upgrade that we can do. We've actually got the best chassis out of everyone. Picture that. Best chassis. I do like a good chassis. And we've got the best one at the moment. We're going to have to hold back a bit until we get more R&D. And there we go. Another durability upgrade. That's going to boost us a little bit further. And look at that. Now, you can see on the right-hand side that we have closed the gap to Ferrari and McLaren. Really nice. That's a big gap. Only problem is that we're going to be taking grid penalties this weekend, so that won't even matter. Let's see, then. In terms of facilities, we could invest maybe... That's 14,000. That's a bit too expensive. 14 million, sorry. Not 1,000. A bit more than that, I have to say. We've got Spec 2 on the chassis. What else are we looking at? Maybe we go Spec 2 on marketing and go for the activities management. We'll go with that. That should be a good upgrade. Get some more R&D points. What can we do with them? Is there another upgrade in here that we might want to go for? Let's go for the reshaped combustion chamber. That's another good upgrade to get in. Do we have any more upgrades we're getting in? 4th of May? Yes, we do. Will it work? I think it has. We've got a personnel department, though.
We need your input here. It's not an easy choice.
Snowden was unfortunately involved in an incident at our gym. They are unharmed, but it wouldn't look good if we didn't investigate to ensure the health and safety standards are adhered to, but closing the gym will affect the driver's fitness program. Lose focus, increase awareness. Lose awareness, increase focus. Because we lost the focus area, focus is key. It improves everything else. If you've got low focus, it doesn't matter about all the other things, really. You can see we've got that upgrade in, and now we are pretty much identical to Ferrari. He's now up to 88 focus, 86 rated as it stands, which is pretty important. You know, as I was saying earlier, some of these are getting a bit lower, and that should help us a little bit. Are we going to get another? No, we're not going to get another department event here. So there we have it, pretty much. We'll have a look at the R&D chart to see it in a second. Look at the chassis department, though. 15 out of 23, we're flying on that one. We're also pushing on the powertrain. So in terms of the upgrades we've still got to get in, we have got a major and a minor. If we can get some more R&D this weekend, we'll be able to maybe go for another big upgrade. How much is this one? minor weight reduction. Do we have any majors here? Oh, is that a major? Major DRS upgrade. Minor front downforce. Major rear downforce. So there's 2 major upgrades we could do there. Crankshaft. Minor. Major. So there's quite a few things here. We are a little bit struggling in the powertrain at the moment because Ferrari aren't exactly giving us a fantastic engine. As it stands, that was my choice for choosing them, but it's my fault, but it's alright, isn't it? We are still rubbish in the durability department. We've moved ahead of Alfa Romeo and Haas, but that's not what we're focusing on here. But as you can see, there's still more major upgrades to get in, so we should still be very strong for France, which is pivotal, because France is one of those tracks where I can really perform well. But as you can see, it's now 4 cars in the midfield battle. It's a shame that we're taking a penalty now this weekend, isn't it? But, I mean, that's the way it goes, isn't it? So, we've gone over facilities, got some, well, another upgrade going, R&D, we've sorted that out. Told you about the vehicle, of course, in terms of the gearbox. We might take a penalty for that. Actually, do we need to take a penalty for that? Do we need... might as well. Might as well. We are actually getting a little bit closer towards being able to have that new sponsorship. Gone over, Yuki. So that is everything in terms of not doing qualifying session. It's a bit complicated, but we aren't doing quali today, so we'll have a look at the R&D graph. Before we do, if you guys are enjoying the content, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But let's go and have a look at the R&D graph. Wow, I have to say, the R&D has certainly been put in a jar and thrown around a little bit, because look at this. Mercedes with a massive gap to Red Bull there. Look at that. They have got a very, very decent car coming into this weekend. Nearly max performance there. They're looking very strong here in Season 2. Look at that. Massive gap to Red Bull. They should be able to dominate this weekend. They really should with that much of a better car. Then, McLaren and Ferrari remain close. We are just a little bit off them now. We're very close. In fact, we're a little bit off them, and we've broken away from AlphaTauri. So we've got the fifth best car this weekend. Can't get me words out there. We've got the 5th best car. That's not too bad at all. We're making inroads on the Ferraris and the McLarens, and we are getting quite a chunk ahead of the AlphaTauri. Then, of course, Aston Martin dropping away. They're just sort of struggling. They're kind of in between AlphaTauri and ourselves, and then, of course, Alpine and Alfa Romeo. Alpine have moved back ahead of Alfa Romeo there, as you can see in the R&D. Williams, though, are dropping back to Haas, who have made some massive upgrades there. They're charging back up the field. So I have to say, it's going to be very interesting to see in terms of the race in tomorrow's video, where it sort of pans out, because we could be able to get back into the points if this car is that high up in the R&D, because Mercedes, though, should be dominant this weekend. Massive lead in the R&D. They're absolutely massive. Look at that chunk. That's very, very big compared to the teeniest of gaps we had last time out at Imola. Not even really a gap there, but that is, wow, pretty big. Pretty big there, I have to say. So Mercedes should be pretty comfortable over Red Bull. Then McLaren and Ferrari. Once again, it will come down to the best drivers there. Then the gap to ourselves is so minimal that it could just be pretty close. Could be really quite close there between McLaren and Ferrari and then ourselves, because that gap is not big. And then the gap back to AlphaTauri is not that big either. So definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if Pierre Gasly can really get into the mix with the McLarens and the Ferraris this weekend. Maybe my teammate too. That would be fantastic. But you can really see there how close it is between McLaren and Ferrari, and the fact that we've really, really caught up. So it's looking very interesting there. It's also looking quite interesting in terms of Aston Martin not gaining. Alpine on the rise. Williams struggling now. It is very, very interesting. But we saw it's not all about the cars. Mercedes came out on top last season with a car that was much worse towards the end of the season. Red Bull, can they do the opposite and do better with a car that's much worse this season and try to win? Because their form recently has been pretty Fantastic. One other thing I want to show you. Slightly wet in FP1, then you've got FP2, FP3. Quali, dry, race, dry. So we've got a dry quali and a dry race there. So in terms of that, dry quali, dry race, we shouldn't have too much of a problem because last time we were fine on the wets, but the tyre temperatures, we couldn't get them in the window. It just turned into a disaster on the inters. We had no pace. So I'm glad we don't have the fear of that happening again, and we've got a nice, relaxed, dry race. It won't be a relaxed 33 laps because we've got a lot of charging up the field to do from last, but it should hopefully be an exciting one. So I'm going to go off and do free practice, and now you guys are going to get to see the results of Q1 in a second. Of course, we will be last because we are not participating. Well, a bit of a shame. Like, we're not competing in quali today, but I think it is the right decision for us. I mean, did free practice, and the pace is okay. It's not incredible. Just okay, I suppose, really. We have a much better pace, I think, we had like last season, but that's generally because we got a much better car. So it is the right call for today, because in terms of the pace where we are, we're pretty much just around my teammate. So we're not really going to be able to capitalise on the situation because we were going to take a CE anyway. That's 5 places. In terms of where I think I could have got, I think maybe at best I would have got P11, P12, and that would then drop us down to like P17 with Robert Schwartzman's, and by that point you might as well just stack them and go all out. In terms of who we've lost from quali then, Schwartzman knocked out P17. Oh, so unlucky there for him. Also out in quali, Kimi Räikkönen, P18, bit of a shame after a good Q1 at Imola. Mick Schumacher, P19 for Haas, no real surprise there in that pretty poor car. Then Nicholas Latifi, P20. He's a bit further back than he would have wanted to have been off Schumacher, but the Williams car has dropped, and Schumacher's fantastic ratings and focus is actually proving pretty well. He's got a fantastic focus for a driver who's in a car that week in, week out is pretty just rubbish. And then Nikita Mazepin way off the pace there, nearly 6/10 off the pace. Really disappointing for him. Never really gets up near the top. But yeah, that's a bit disappointing for him, I have to say. But Valtteri Bottas ahead of Perez, Verstappen and Hamilton. So we've seen that the two Red Bull drivers are seemingly driving better than the Mercedes drivers so far this season. We've seen that. Now that Mercedes have a better car, they're right in the mix with it. It's going to be interesting. I mean, what's the gap in the standings from Mercedes and Red Bull? Red Bull have a 21-point gap. And now the two teams, because Mercedes have the better car, it's pretty much equal. Look at the gap. Under a tenth separating all of those guys. It really just shows it, doesn't it? It really does. I mean, it's going to come down to any of those guys for pole. This is just Q1, so frankly anyone could be in it. But it will be, I think, between one of the Mercedes drivers or the Red Bull drivers. In terms of Charles Leclerc, though, P5, just off the back of Hamilton. That makes it the top 5 within 1/10 in Q1. I don't think Leclerc will be able to compete for pole, but I wouldn't be surprised if he takes P5 or maybe even something better. It's been a disappointing start for the season to him, but I think he'll really come back. We saw it last season. He's got the consistency. He's a fantastic driver. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Monegasque back up there near the top this season, potentially fighting to take what would probably be P6 in the Drivers' Championship. But of course, then Carlos Sainz, a little bit behind, about 2/10 off. Norris and Ricciardo are there. Norris is about a 10th off Carlos, so those two looking pretty close at the moment. And then Daniel Ricciardo, we saw it at Imola, is dropping away from this squad here. You got 4 of them: Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Ricciardo. Ricciardo is just dropping away from it a little bit, struggling compared to his teammate. And Lance Stroll, who I probably believe would have gone again, has actually managed to nip in just behind Danny Rick, but Stroll will have probably gone again. Gasly won't have done. He'll be happy, though, to see his teammate just right with him. That's what he'll want. And then, of course, my teammate Yuki, who I believe didn't have to go again, 1/10 behind Pierre. So Really solid pace showing this weekend for Yuki. It is very close in Q1, but of course that will all change in Q2 and Q3. Fernando Alonso, P12, he has got to be pretty happy with that in the Alpine. The Alpine is improving, and he's ahead of both Aston Martins, so he'll be pretty happy with that. Seb Vettel, of course, 2 tenths behind, maybe struggling a little bit in that Aston Martin. Haven't had many upgrades, he's dropping away from Alpha Tauri's car and our car. Then George Russell, despite a terrible car compared to last weekend, it's heading back towards Haas. It's way off the back of Alfa Romeo. He is certainly Mr. Saturday. In the 1 minute 17s in that Williams. P14, a fantastic Q1 result. Great to see him in Q2. Hopefully he gets a good result there. Then Esteban Ocon, P15 again. A dismal, really dismal, hasn't it, this season so far? He's been performing where the car should be. And that's where the car should be at the moment. Ahead of the Alfa Romeos, just. It's just disappointing, really, for him. But there's not much you can do in that car. He's not given good machinery. Alonso's been really outperforming it. But Esteban really just can't really do that. Antonio Giovinazzi just scaves through. Mr. Spin Man, of course, he's certainly had quite a few. He had 2 at Bahrain, then he ended up spinning at Imola. I don't know whether it was once or twice. It might even have been twice. So, yeah, all well and good having a good quality result, Antonio, but you do need to keep it the right way round in the actual race. But ourselves, P22, it is a shame this week we've got a fantastic car and we're not really going to be able to capitalise on it, but trust me, we ain't going to suddenly fly down the order for France. And if we had that sort of a car last season and could win at France, we've got this sort of a car this season, bar no disasters or mechanical failures, it should be really, really good opportunity anyway to be able to win. Maybe, definitely, I think a podium's on the cards at France. So, in terms of a quick run over of it all in Q1, we can't see Q2 and Q3. They should let you do that. If you got in Q1 in career mode in F1 2022, hopefully they add that in so that you can then go and have a look and see, right, okay, they got through to Q2 and, well, they got through to Q2. Where did they finish in Q2? Where do they go in Q3 then? That'd be really good. But we'll have to wait until tomorrow's race to see the grid. These career mode videos are coming thick and fast off the back of last week into this week, and we're throwing them all over. Just certainly like a good bit of career mode. You can't say no to that. But the Mercedes and the Red Bulls, with Mercedes having the better car, those two drivers can perform at the same level of the flying Red Bulls this season of Perez and Verstappen. That's looking very close for pole. Then Charles Leclerc's been struggling a little bit so far this season, especially compared to his teammate, but now it looks as if he is coming back. Great to see if he can maybe keep that P5 on the grid when we have a look at that tomorrow. Of course, you've got the group of the Ferraris and the McLarens. Leclerc looking a little bit stronger in the group, and Daniel Ricciardo, like last time at Imola, looking the weaker of them. Lance Stroll improving, I have to say, fitting into that AlphaTauri well, despite still having a low focus. He's gone again in quali, and he's pretty similar to his teammate, which is good improvements from Imola. Of course, Pierre Gasly P10, looking very strong, only just off the back of the McLarens and the Ferraris. That's with having same amount of runs as them. So Gasly, with that AlphaTauri starting to catch up to the Ferraris and the McLarens, is looking pretty strong. Then my teammate Yuki Tsunoda, capitalising on the better car this weekend. Didn't need to go out again in Q1. And thanks to that, is only just off the back of Gasly, about 400th in that one there. So really great to see my teammate starting to catch up to Gasly. We need him to be fighting Gasly this season, of course, because if we're consistently fighting the Red Bulls up top and he's consistently fighting the AlphaTauri Gasly a little bit further back, then there's a chance of us getting P3 in the Constructors, which is our target. Then, of course, Fernando Alonso outperforming the car once again. At least it's improving for him. Then Sebastian Vettel struggling a little bit in his Aston Martin. Meanwhile, George Russell outperforming that Williams. That truly is Mr. Saturday. Ocon struggling a little bit, as we've already said, and then Antonio Giovinazzi scaves through. The ones we've lost in Q1, of course. Robert Schwartzman for Aston Martin, Kimi Raikkonen for Alfa Romeo. Then we've lost both the Hassers, Schumacher 19th, Mazepin 21st, and then, of course, Nicholas Latifi P20. We have not participated in quality because we are stacking grid penalties. Does, of course, mean it will be last to probably not first here at Spain. So they're nice if it would be in tomorrow's race. But, of course, we've got a lot of work to do It'd be interesting to see how the grid forms. We know where Schwartzman, Raikkonen, Schumacher, Latifi and Mazepin are because they're out in quali. So certainly know where we are. That's the back of the grid. So with a dry race, unlike in Season 1, got a chance to go forward. Points might potentially be on the board. Be quite difficult, I have to say, though. So that's pretty much it for this video. In terms of those guys in the top 10 in Q2, they'll probably be on the mediums, which means they might have to go for a two-stopper in the race. So there's still a minute possibility of a point score, but I mean, that'd be fantastic. We did last season, but that was due to safety cars and a wet race and a very good strategy. So maybe there's a chance of that, but it's going to be a difficult one. It should certainly be a fun one. Plenty of overtaking will be necessary and involved. I really can't wait for that. If you guys have enjoyed the video, I know it hasn't been the most exciting, but if you can, please subscribe to the channel. Totally free, helps me out and allows me to make the content. It might be a bit of a pest, I know everyone says it, but I don't have loads of subscribers at the moment, and I want to keep making this content, but I need those subscribers. I put a lot of work into the videos, so please, guys, if you can, subscribe to the channel. Even better if you can do that and hit the like button. But thanks a lot for watching, and I will catch you very soon for the race here in Spain, where we're going to be fighting from the back of the grid, taking loads of engine penalties. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you all very soon.